Hey y'all, so I wanted to take a minute and talk about R and using R and RStudio Cloud and relating all of that to GitHub. This is actually my second attempt at this video because I made a mistake in the first one. I didn't properly link my workspace to my GitHub account. So, let me log out. That always looks a little better, right? Okay, so RStudio.cloud is where I would like for you guys to use R. It does require that you use that you have web access. If you don't have web access, R is free. You can download it. Now, when I say R, R is the computer programming language, and then the studio, RStudio, is how you're going to interact with R. That's your IDE. And I really do like RStudio. I think it has a lot of things going for it. R is a pretty basic computer language, but it's kind of ugly to deal with in most ways. There's lots of silly ways to deal with it. All right, so first thing that I needed to do was I needed to go into my GitHub, and what I needed to do was I needed to create a new repository. I know there's a lot of stuff going on my R account or on my GitHub account, which if you haven't logged into GitHub, you need to go ahead and create a profile. I'm going to then go to my repositories and I'm going to add a new one. I've already done that here. If you look, I called it Applied Stats. So R, it's because there's an Applied Stats Jupyter notebooks from 2 years ago. And looks like I numbered it wrong. So if you click on that, you'll see that I haven't done anything with it yet. I didn't even give it anything, but I just created a new notebook. Let me show you what it does to create a new repository here. New repository. So you click here, you give it a name, you give it a description, you could add a README. I'd suggest you add a README. I didn't do that, and that's why mine looks really boring. It gives you a place. The README file is just like a little text file, but you can put something like, I did this for class. Yay! It won't be very much. In any case, I've already done that, so I've already created my repository. So if I go back and I get out of the new here, I can go to this one. Cool. I'm going to need this URL, by the way. When I go to RStudio, I can log in now, and I can log in with my GitHub account, which is kind of cool, right? So they'll be linked up right away. And then I have my different projects. We're going to do a new project, but this is the tricky part. You want to do a new project from your Git repository. So when you click on that, you have to do the URL of your Git repository. That's why we created the repository first. Cool. So I take this URL. I'm going to copy and paste because I'm lazy. And I paste it right in there. And I can click OK and create a new repository. I've actually already done that. So this will create my repository. It's linked to my Git. This is the little button here, by the way, that shows that you're committed to that you have the GitHub. That's what I did wrong in my first video. So the next thing I want to show you guys is just adding the R Markdown. R Markdown is the thing that I really like. R Markdown is going to require that I load a couple of packages. So yes, I want to install the packages. It does this automatically, but it's just going to take it a minute. The really nice thing about R Markdown is that it's going to allow me to create my report within my R code, or wrapped in my R code. So R Markdown, if you know the Markdown language, maybe you don't, but Markdown is very, very similar to LaTeX. So you can put LaTeX equations, you can do headers and footers and all that fun stuff, and do R code at the same time. So here R is doing these packages that I need. By the way, I only have to do this once. Maybe I should have done this before I got on the video, huh? But once I get this done here, it's going to load the Markdown environment. I do have to give it a title. Let's call it my Applied Stats Project. And I'll give it a name. You can see here that it asks for the default output format. HTML, PDF, or Word. I really do like HTML. I think HTML is very universal. HTML is what your websites are written in. PDF, of course, is easy to transfer, and you guys are all familiar with Microsoft Word and how terrible it is, right? So I prefer that you use HTML or PDF. And HTML is top of my list. That's what I'm going to do here. So cool. Once I load the R Markdown environment here, I can actually start doing some R coding. So each of these little boxes that start with the 3 tick marks and have the R are actually R code blocks. They don't require this. The second character here is the name of the chunk of R coding. It's not required, but it can be there. You can run your R code by clicking that, and you see that one ran, and it doesn't include it. Include equals false there. But this one, when I run it, cars is some loaded data set, and it gives a summary of that data set, which is something you guys are going to have to do. You'll also see down here, this one is going to include a plot. Sorry about that. Got to go to a meeting in 15 minutes. You can see that it includes a plot down here. So it's kind of cool. Again, double tick marks, squigglies, R, and then close the squigglies. You don't need this. It just gives you a way to name it. But that'll give you any R coding. That'll run any of the R coding. The rest of this is just text. So you can run your text right in there. You see they've got a web link. The hashtag here is actually giving you headers. And let's show you guys the best part about this is the LaTeX coding. So you can insert your LaTeX coding using dollar signs, and that's my favorite equation. So it imports right there. Last thing we need to know is the knit. Knit is what puts all of this together. And of course, this is my report or something. So I save it as report, and it's going to save it over here in the project files. And there it goes. It generated that whole thing. You see the title, my name, the date, and some of those headers. I got my equations. I got my outputs too. I get my R, and I can write about it all in one place. So I think this is an excellent way to make your report. This is what I'm looking for. Please do go ahead and use this. Last thing that I need to do, and I'm not so certain I'll be able to do it, is I want to update my GitHub account with this file that I just made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my Git, and I'm going to hit this commit button. When I hit the commit button, I have to give it a commit message. Initial commit. And I can commit these changes. Okay, so it says, please tell me who you are. Okay, so this is the hardest part. R does not know who I am. Sorry, Git does not know who I am. So I've copied this, and I'm going to come over here to the terminal. I'm not going to use the terminal very often. Oh, it won't let me paste it, huh? All right, so I got to go back and figure out what my error message was. What was my error message? What did it say? Git config global. Okay, so basically I just have to tell GitHub who I am. So git config. Oh, I need this just open next to me, huh? Yeah, that's the one I want to see. Git config double backslash global. If I could type, this would be better. User.email. By the way, I think you only have to do this once. And so I'm going to put my email in here. So I just hit enter and it runs that code. And then I'm going to do this other one, git config global user.name, and this is my GitHub name. At least I think it is. I'm going to use my GitHub name. Cool. All right, so let's see now if I can commit to GitHub. Nothing added to commit, but untracked file. Oh, I gotta stage them. I'm sorry, I gotta click the little stage button. I want to add all of those. And it did it. So there you go. So now any changes I've made have been committed to my GitHub. So commit to GitHub is like saving it. So make sure you are saving your stuff.